All right, we are live. Let's see. Bourbon or Facebook group doesn't look like it's posting. So, hold on 1 second.
Is this where Kenny immediately wants to jump in and take over?
Yeah.
I'm so like, this is great. This is great.
How much is Kenny just like sitting back thinking, I like having the mute button on everyone. And
yeah.
Let's see.
People are saying they're live on the YouTube chat, so you got that going for you.
Yeah.
It's already up to 24 people. So I just don't know why the Bourboner group isn't posting. It posted just like my own personal.
You probably need to be an admin.
Heads up.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Continue.
And the computer.
Let's see if we can do this. We'll be. All right, whatever. I'll just post the YouTube link into that. So anyways, how you guys doing? Doing well?
Doing good.
Yeah.
10 o'clock. I'm up. So yeah, I'm ready to rock.
That's a success. I know whenever Kenny was like, you want to go before or after Fred? I'm like, 10 o'clock? That's pretty late. But 8 o'clock, there's basically a 95% chance I have kids running down.
Kids yelling.
At 8 o'clock hour. So, you win some, you lose some.
It's not fair. Like we need to talk to Fred and be like, you can't just like play
dominate
the 8 o'clock spot every night. You're not Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, he's kind of commandeered it.
Hey, more power to him for knocking out that much live content. I'm like, I don't know how he does it. I get like 1 or 2 in a month, and I'm like, oh, that's by far more than I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And so, all right,
It's his job, so he's got to make it happen.
Post this live. All right, let me post this and post.
Is this on the Bourboner YouTube? Is that what?
Yeah, it's on Bourboner YouTube and Sealbox Facebook, and now Bourboner Facebook group.
Oh,
The
sorry,
live chat and the private chat if you need to see it.
I just hinted that I'm not subscribed. Sorry, I am now.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, jerk. Yeah, actually brought you on to bring that up. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think many people are subscribed. I don't think it's a huge thing. So, all right, I'm gonna do the give it a couple seconds so I have a break to get started. Then we'll go from there. Welcome, everyone. I am Blake from Bourboner and Sealbox.com. Tonight, I have 2 very special guests. You probably know them from the Bourbon Pursuit podcast, as well as their own line, Pursuit series or Pursuit Spirits. And so that's Ryan and Kenny. So Ryan and Kenny, it's kind of funny introducing you. I'm very much used to having the roles reversed. If you don't know, we typically do our bourbon roundtable once a month where it's hosted by the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. Kenny's running the show. We kind of come in, joke around, talk bourbon for an hour, and that's it. So this was very, very different this time. So thank you all for joining me tonight.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Like I said, it's fun to kind of have the tables reversed and be able to answer questions instead of having to ask them all the time.
Yeah, and this is the typical show for me. I just show up and somebody guides the conversation, and I just chime in as I see fit.
I know there was a lot of pressure for me tonight. I'm like, man, I got to make sure my my Wi-Fi is working. Kenny's asking me if I'm plugged into the hardwire to the internet and to the power. I said no to both, so hopefully we'll make it. But no, it's good. I feel like it's always fun to talk with you guys and to kind of get a little deeper into the whole Pursuit series stuff and what has come of that. But just, I feel like we've kind of been doing this. I think I was episode number 5 on the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. So I feel like both crowds and audiences have grown together, and it's just cool to see where it's evolved from there. I spun it off into the retail site Sealbox. You guys spun it off into your own brand. So, I guess first question is, where did that initial idea come from with your own brand?
Ryan, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it all kind of started back on a roundtable, oddly enough, where I believe we were talking about a private label bourbon at the time called Doc 52s. And it was like if you think about the transition of what private label whiskey used to be back in 60s and 70s and stuff like that, is that liquor stores, or even grocery stores for that matter, would go and buy their own barrels of whiskey and have it with their own label on it. And Doc 52s was one of the first ones that was actually making that happen. It's a small independent retail store based out of Memphis and Tennessee area. We talked about it for a little bit, and about a week later, I get a phone call, and this guy goes, "Hey, I helped build that brand. Would you be interested in doing your own?" I mean, the idea really never even crossed our minds to do anything about anything like that. So one thing led to another, and he said, "I'll be up in Louisville in a few weeks. Would you want to just go out, grab drinks, and kind of, see what one thing leads to the next?" And I know that I had talked to Ryan pretty early about this time and asked if he was interested. And, at the very beginning, it was kind of like, I don't know. It's just another headache, another kind of thing to deal with. And then we went and met him. I think it was like hell or high water here in Louisville. And it was a really good meeting, just really good guys all around. They gave us a few barrel samples. And that's what kind of led off to figure out, okay, like what are we going to do next? And we were hesitant at first. I mean, we were, because we knew the whiskey. We knew we were Kentucky boys. We knew that we were getting into a lot of stuff that was all Tennessee bourbon. We hadn't really been exposed to it that much up until this point. And it kind of was, I guess we kind of like battle tested it a little bit. So we grabbed a bottle of Henry McKenna 10-year. It was on my bar. And this was about the time when Fred Minnick named it his whiskey of the year. And I brought Ryan, we went outside to my patio, and we had 3 barrel samples in Henry McKenna. I said, if any of these taste better than Henry McKenna, we're going to do this. And there was just one that really stood out. It was hands down better than Henry McKenna. I mean, you got to understand, they're all single barrels at this point, right? So everything's going to vary and fluctuate. But this one was just head over heels better. And that ended up being episode 001, the first release that we ever did.
Yeah, and just to add to that story, I was not interested because they said Tennessee from the get-go. So I was like, nope, not even meeting them. And then they said they were coming to town, and I thought they were like 2 old guys, like, I don't know. And I was like, no, I'm just not interested. It's like, I'm busy with work. I got these twins. It's like, I can't go meet these guys. But we met them, had a great meeting. And just before this, we kind of started doing single barrel picks. We had done the one with the first Bourbon Community Roundtable one, and it was, sold out instantly. Then we had started doing a few others, and they were selling out pretty quickly. And when they presented us this opportunity, Kenny was like, oh, maybe we'll do, one single barrel or something. And I was like, no, Kenny. Like, that night it clicked with me. I was like, no, we can like start a brand. Like, I think we could really do something. And like, I couldn't sleep for the next couple months. Like, just the wheels were churning, and I was so excited about it. And so we did the patio test on Kenny's patio, and we beat McKenna. And then as soon as that happened, we sent a message. We're like, we're headed to Memphis. We're coming. We're going to start picking some barrels. So off we went.
Yeah. And hopefully it's not a bunch of repeats. So actually, Blake even like put the cart before the horse here. So tomorrow we're actually releasing a podcast called How We Built Pursuit Series. It just happened to line up with this.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. With and actually Fred interviews us. And so you kind of, like I said, you're going to hear the same story told probably in a different way as well when you listen to it tomorrow.
Hopefully my stories are straight.
Just go ahead and let me know what questions he asked, because they're probably good questions. So I want to get a jump on. No, but it's really interesting. So, and I don't even think I know this, but how many barrels did you pick in the initial run of, you had that 001 lined up, but from my recollection, we released 1 and 2 at the same time, and that would have been like December 2018. How many barrels had been lined up at that point?
So we going down, we were like, we're just going to buy 1 barrel. That's all we really had money for. And then we got there and they had rolled out like, I don't know, 10 or 11 different barrels. And we had tasted a 14-year. It was like one of the first or second ones we tried that day. Yeah. And we were like, holy cow, this is like one of the most unique things we got to buy this one. So we're like, well, we're at least in it for 2 because we want the original barrel we had picked and this. And then we taste through some more and, we got episode 3. And so we came away with 3 and we're like, oh shit, do we have the money or like, because we're still just like trying to, and you can probably go into more questions about this, but we're still trying to figure out names, labels, all the legality shit, but
yeah, we're just thinking like, do they take Amex? Because I guess we could use some points here. It's
Can I get a free flight out of this? And, what are we? Yeah.
It's not like doing it through a liquor store where they pick up the bill, and and it's right out of your mind. Then they're like, well, how are you going to set up payment?
That's although it is funny. I remember, we talked about it, and I was probably 3 or 4 months into Sealbox, so not much at all. And he said, hey, we're going to release these first 2. And we just happened to be at Disney that day. And it was like right at the beginning of December. And I think the release had gotten pushed back. And so it's like, we're going to release 2. And I remember just opening my phone and being like, oh crap. This is way more orders than I thought we were going to have. And Sealbox is still pretty new. We're trying to figure everything out. And then, it's been fun to see the success of the brand and, just how people embrace it from the podcast side. And we kind of have that initial barrels. When did you really decide you had that initial success, you have a few barrels you want to pick, but really like, oh wow, now we've got to really figure out where we're going to source barrels from for the next however many years, and I know y'all are growing, you're doing, single barrels in Texas and Georgia and all this stuff. So when did that kind of next step come in of like, all right, we got to take this thing to the next level and make sure we're prepared? If anyone knows Kenny, I'm going to guess he was doing that from day one of like bringing out a spreadsheet and have like some formulas and all kinds of stuff. But, when did
actually really Kenny's, I'm the one like right on the ride home. I'm like, we got to buy warehouses and we got to buy as much as we can. And
it's called scope creep.
And so like,
the wheels. I would love to hear like Kenny ringing Ryan back in. Like, hold on a second.
And that's what works so well with us. I'm the dreamer and kind of like what's next and then Kenny's kind of like the pragmatic, like how are we realistically going to make this happen? So it's a good combination there for sure.
Yeah. And to kind of just like roll back what you were saying, where you were talking earlier about, the first orders coming in from Sealbox, it's been a pleasure to grow together with you, because really what Sealbox is able to do is open up a business model that had never really been done before. Especially in the spirits industry. And I remember the first time that we were in Memphis selecting barrels, and we had to actually go and take a break because somebody else came in to go and select a barrel. And I remember Ryan and I were there, and we're like, okay, we're going to slap a sticker on this 14 years so nobody takes this. And that ended up being episode 2. But I remember going out to the waiting room, or kind of like their bar area, and calling you and saying like, all right, man, like you got to tell me like how this works. Cause I'm stressing, like we're getting ready to like drop, I don't know how many thousands of dollars, and we have no idea what we're going to do. And, you know, it was fun to kind of look at the model of how Sealbox works and how, you know, it kind of breaks the mold of traditional distribution. And it gave us an avenue to be able to, I mean, we understand that our podcast and our audience, it's national and sometimes even international. And it doesn't make sense for us to sit there and say, oh yeah, let's go talk to an RNDC and all these people and try to get distribution in all these different states. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like the stars align. There's no way we could have done this without Sealbox. You know, there's just absolutely no way.
Yeah. And so, like I said, so that was one of the big catalysts of even becoming a thing, because this was an opportunity to actually get it in the hands of people that were interested in the podcast and interested in all this. And I do remember that first release, and we sold out in an hour, all of it. And it was, you know, it was just like churning through. I mean, it was fantastic. And for us, we were beyond elated to see this response that was coming, you know, especially selling all through the Patreon community, never even making it to the public and stuff like that. So that was also one of the original intentions, was that this was only going to be like a 1 or 2 or 3 single barrels kind of thing. And it would go to their Patreon community because it's just like extra stuff. And then that's when Ryan has a lot of ideas, and he's like, you know, my dad has land in Bardstown. Like we can build a warehouse and just store barrels there. And I mean, the scope just grew and grew and grew. But we knew that we were never going to be distillers. And we knew that we had to kind of figure out what's actually going to be reasonable, what's rational, and everything like that. To go back to the other question of like, how do you determine how many barrels you're going to need for the next, you know, X amount of time? You know, thankfully, we have partnered with our broker that is really awesome in regards of how much stock that they keep and what they allow us to choose from. So depending on the day, I usually say they have 2,000 to 5,000 barrels in inventory. I think when we were down there last, Ryan, they had close to like 8,000 barrels in the warehouse or something like
10, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in this massive warehouse, and like they literally had no room to like move the skids around or anything like that. They were just moving barrels in and out. So they give us a real opportunity that nobody else gets inside of the whiskey market. So to kind of like paint a picture as well. So for anybody that is kind of understanding like, well, what is Pursuit Series? What's it mean? Like, and how are you all able to do this? If you were a traditional brand and you wanted to create, or you want to just create your own brand, whatever it is, you say, oh, I need 50 barrels or 150 barrels or 250 barrels, whatever it is. And you go to MGP or you go to a broker and you go to whatever, and you see what's available. You might be able to taste a sample from a lot. You taste a sample and you're like, oh, that's great. I'll take 50 or 150 of those barrels. You write a check for 100,000, 500,000, whatever it is. Semi trucks show up, barrels roll off. You don't know what they taste like. You don't know what their fill levels are. There could be 50 bottles in that barrel. There could be 150. It doesn't matter. That barrel still cost you X amount of dollars. So it's a huge, huge risk getting into this game. What they gave us an opportunity to do was exactly what we had kind of said before, is they will actually we'll go to their warehouse and they will roll out any depending on the day. Usually that first day it was like 12 barrels. Now it's between 30 to 60 barrels, and we'll be there over the span of 2 days, and we'll hand select every single one of these barrels that end up becoming a Pursuit Series. So it truly is a single barrel offering where we to kind of really choose the best of the best. And like
it's
I said,
not just the best of 3, like red, black, or blue. You know, you get to we get to be really picky, which is nice.
Well, I mean, I know y'all said you'll taste like, you know, 20 something barrels in the morning, go eat lunch, come back and retaste your top 5 or I mean, there's a lot of barrels that you're selecting from just in a day's time, right?
Yeah, I mean, we actually say no to about 80% that get rolled out. You know, it's no mystery when we're dealing with our Tennessee stock where it comes from. You know, it has a mineral taste. You know, it has some of that Flintstones vitamins that people know about. However, when we went into this, we know that that is not a strong characteristic that we want to get out of it. So we pick and we try to choose barrels that don't really have that sort of like really pronounced flavors. We try to find that are more chocolatey, that are more fruity, that are more creamy, ones that have, a much different characteristic than what you would particularly find in something like that. So we try to find something that definitely doesn't fit that particular mold coming from that one distillery.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty good system. We'll go taste like 10, and then we'll play a game of Can Jam, and then come back and do another 10, and and then go get Cozy Corner ribs, and then reset, and then we got a good system.
SM Creasy said, "Drink single barrels and throw frisbees." So I'm assuming that was a reference of which and I think the interesting part of it is on Sealbox, we initially started like, okay, we're going to be, focused just on craft distilleries. And then you realize like blending is such an art, picking barrels is an art. And hey, what if it's, it's more about transparency that we want to focus on, and the independent bottler, which is kind of a lost art within American whiskey, with Scotch and Irish whiskey, there's a lot more of that going on. But with American whiskey, it's almost got a bad rap, although it seems like now recently there's a lot more independent bottlers coming on that are, transparent about what they do. They pick from different distilleries. So kind of leads into the episodes we'll probably talk about tonight with 24 and 25 of, you've kind of bounced around to a couple distilleries. I think you're up to 3 now. We have the Tennessee bourbon. There's, I don't know if y'all say the Bardstown Distillery anymore. And
you could say it. I mean, the episode was released, and so it had Willet on the label, so it was a great partnership.
Earmuffs.
Yeah, and then you're now on your 3rd release from Finger Lakes Distilling. So, what's the thought process there of hitting? I know kind of behind the scenes we've talked about some other distilleries you're working with, so I don't know if you'll want to talk about those, but I know that's kind of in the works. So where's your thought process of just bringing in different flavor? Are you going after a specific flavor profile? Are you going after, just the best you can find? Or, what's the kind of the thinking behind where you're sourcing from?
Yeah, I'm just looking for, or not me, but Kenny and I think we're just looking for something unique and just like something that stands out. Cause most products you're going to get from certain distilleries, you pretty much know what you're going to get. And so, if we can offer our consumers, we're whiskey geeks too. We're always looking for the next best thing. Like, we're in the same search as our, our fans are. And so we're literally just going out and trying whatever we can. And if we like it, we want to do business with them and help them grow. And, cause it helps us grow. And we've formed some great relationships, and McKinsey and Finger Lakes has been one of them, but you've said the other one, but I won't repeat it. But we got a good relationship with Woodinville now too. So we got a couple barrels that we've been sitting on that we're waiting to release. I'm not sure when they will be, but we got some other Kentucky barrels, that we bought a few years ago that we've been aging. And so we're literally not looking for something per se, like flavor profile, just something that's unique and like just really good stuff, because we know our fans, they're like picky as we are. And we really want to showcase the whiskey and like how good it is, and not like bullshit, no marketing behind it. It's just all about what's inside the bottle.
Yeah. I think one of the things that make us a little bit different and stand out is that we do actually pick and we select every single barrel that is a Pursuit series. It is a single barrel selection. We're not one of those other NDPs that buy, 10 or 12 barrels of 12-year-old Kentucky Barton that's on the open market. It's an expensive product. You batch it together and you put it out there and you throw a label on it. Anybody can do that. Literally anybody can do it. Anybody can go to MGP and buy barrels and put a label on it. However, nobody gets the opportunity to go through and actually select barrels directly from a broker to be able to do that. So that was number one. And I think that's kind of like that's our main driver in regards of what we're able to do is keeping a consistent pace of releases and stuff out there is because we have the stock that's available to us from our broker that he gives us the opportunity to go and select and kind of cherry pick those barrels. Now, don't get me wrong, we pay a little bit of a premium to be able to do that, but we're happy to do that as well. And then, as Ryan had said, partnering with some of these other craft distillers, and we're able to kind of like Blake, exactly what you do, give them a little bit of a megaphone, give them an outlet that gives them the opportunity to put their name beside us as well. I mean, if you look at episode 25, I mean, it says it right on the label itself under the show notes. It says from Finger Lakes Distilling. And so when we try to do that, and we try to do that with anybody that we partner with, is to give them the showmanship that they really deserve, because we don't want to just source it and hide it, especially for these craft distillers that we're trying to help promote them and help cross promote them as well. So anytime we do this with a craft distiller, it's a win-win scenario. So we get the ability, they'll either ship us samples or we'll find the opportunity to go and visit them, like we did with Woodinville, and flew out to Seattle, spent a day with them, recorded a podcast, trolled around and hit some barrels and drink some barrel proof whiskey with them, and said like, hey, we'll take these barrels, can we buy any more? And they're like, no. and so being able to do that, establish those relationships, and then ultimately be able to, again, bring the barrels back, put them underneath our label, but at the same exact time, make sure that they are showcased and their names on there. So it's all about transparency. So people know exactly where it's coming from. So when people know that when they buy a Pursuit Series episode 25, this is a wheated or a spelted wheated mash bill that's coming from Finger Lakes, they know what they're getting themselves into. They know that people like us and, Blake, I think you're the one that actually turned us on to Finger Lakes in the very beginning, that it's kind of gone through a vetting process. You don't have to worry about wasting $65, $80 on a bottle that you feel that is a gamble. Hopefully that you trust us enough that we've gone through the process and really we vetted out a lot of bad ones too. So don't get me wrong, we do that process as well, but it's something that we want to make sure that we are giving the end consumer a good experience at the end of the day.
Yeah, and just being in the bulk market, I mean, your opportunities are limited. There's only three major products you can buy right now, and I mean, there's going to be more here soon, but they're all pretty young. They're in the 3 to 4 year range, and most of them are not ready. And with these craft guys, you get some outstanding product that just is so unique from anything else out there. It's a pleasure to be able to offer that to our audience and give them, because these guys deserve all the credit. It's not about us, it's about them, and we're just giving them a platform to help showcase their product. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think that's what's great about the brand is it's kind of like, hey, you've built trust with an audience. You have the podcast that it's kind of your voice, and then you come and you highlight different things, and it's kind of a process that works, and you don't hide it where you're getting it from, and just I love that about it, because obviously if you don't know, I like craft distilleries and craft whiskeys, and so it's cool to see some of these guys get showcased on your label. So one quick question before we jump into kind of the review portion, and I will preface part of the review with my bottles did not show up. They'll be here at 10:30 tomorrow. It's when I'll start drinking them, but I did grab episode 9 and 10, which are very similar batches, so I'll kind of be drinking along. But so the show notes. So you put your show notes on each bottle, which is your review, and they're often one sentence, maybe 2 sentence, 15 to 20 words. What was the idea behind that? Because I'll be honest, I've gotten feedback from people of like, well, you want me to spend $80 for a bottle that you only tell me it tastes like Mexican hot chocolate? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like,
would you rather have us tell you no idea what it tastes like? I mean,
yeah,
that's
or
the other
just
thing.
And my response is always like, hey, like they're kind of leaving it up to you. They say, hey, this is a little bit of what we taste, but we think it's good. And that's kind of like you've because it's in the bottle, you've put your mark of approval on it, and here's a little bit of what we taste, and then ultimately leave that up to the customer to say, all right, I'm getting these notes, this and that. But yeah, I mean, is that the thinking or the logic behind it, or is just, those are your notes and that's what you're going to put out?
It was a combination of a few things. When we were doing the label process, and if anybody that has a Pursuit series, if you grab it and you look at it, there's so much stuff that's a connotation or connects to the podcast itself. There's a play button, there's a release date, which you would have a release date for a podcast. And, Ryan actually had the brilliant idea of having the episode number. And that was a combination of a few things. It was the fact that we don't have barrel inventory, but we want to have some way to signify what this looks like. And we can kind of have a plan, a podcast there. At the same exact time, the show notes, I think, might have been my idea, because when you look at a podcast, you kind of look inside it and you can see exactly what do people talk about, what are the questions they ask. And there's really not a whole lot of whiskeys on the market that when you're looking at something, it's going to say like, oh, it's like rich, smoky leather tobacco. Like, and that just feels like very generic and blah, if you even do find that on something. And so we know that the podcast itself, well, we try to be lighthearted. We try to be fun. And so everything is a twist on something. So there's been some other show notes that are better than others in regards of like, puns or anything like that. I think episode 19 had like yabba dabba doo on it because it was like an orange push pop. So there's definitely like some good plays on it. But really what we do is Ryan and I, and don't get me wrong, like it doesn't take like 10 minutes that we just do this. Like Ryan and I will stew on this for days on end. We'll try it multiple times and we'll say like, like, what are you getting out of this? And sometimes we'll say green apple. Sometimes we'll say chocolate. We'll say other things. And so we'll try to find like that one, like super prominent note and try to really highlight that, like, and what are we getting out of it? And so that's kind of where the show notes was born out of. And kind of like the idea of it is because we also know that we want to give, as I kind of mentioned earlier, we want to give the consumers an idea of what you're getting yourself into. So I know there was one that was already sold out. I forget which episode number it was, but it reminded me of the mall food court of like that chicken teriyaki that you used to get.
And 23.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And some people were like, I don't like teriyaki chicken. I'm like, it's like my guilty pleasure that I love. Like,
it's like, how do you Chinese not like food? Brown sugar?
But you just walk around chicken 5 times to get the free samples, right? You don't actually
Exactly. And so it's just one of those things that hopefully we give you just an indication of what we're getting off of it. It's not meant to essentially influence what you're doing, but to give you a better idea of what you're getting yourself into, because we all know that single barrels are going to taste just a little bit different no matter which one you're going to. And hopefully that gives you an idea of, a better, more informed purchasing decision.
Yeah. And going through all this, like, because the podcast is fun. We do this for fun. I wanted like all this just to be fun. Like I wanted a light label, play on the podcast, the show notes. I wanted just something, because bourbon's like so masculine and serious. And it's like old man, like, and I think, brands are missing out that the new bourbon drinker is like millennials and younger. And it's like, I wanted a package, or I shouldn't say we wanted a package that, appealed to us and like, us. We wanted something fun. And I think the show notes is like a fun little aspect to it. Now, are we right all the time? I mean, people come up and they're like, there's no way I got juicy fruit out of episode 10. And you're like, well, that's what I got that day. I'm sorry. I don't know. But it's fun for us.
Yeah. And that's where I think it is just, it's a direction, it's, hey, this is where we're going with this selection. This is what we got. But no, I always like that. So with that said, the new batch 024, we have, after you get done with your bowl of Cocoa Puff cereal, don't forget to drink the chocolate milk. And so, I mean, a Tennessee bourbon, you typically get some of that maltier, that chocolatey notes. And I'm assuming that I'll find out at 11 a.m. tomorrow, but I'm assuming that is what you're getting from these as well. So, let's kind of talk about it. What went into this? Because this is only the second barrel you've had of a 15-year-old bourbon, I believe. And I assume this is, you picked it 13, 14 years and have let it age, or did you pick it at 15 years? And, what went into this barrel?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because there's another thing that's a first with this as well. So episode 24, I just now kind of realized, and I had to do it when we were, before we started recording here, was that this is the second highest proof that we've ever released at 119.1. The only one that was above that is the episode 17, which was the Kentucky bourbon release. So this is the highest proof that we've ever done from our Tennessee stock. And, going through here, one of the things that we do is that when we're going down and we're selecting our barrels, I get my Bourbon Pursuit tote bags, and we go, and everything we have a sticker slapped on. We start filling up a bottle to take back home with us, because we know that we're not in the right state of mind to be able to come up with witty show notes after tasting through 50 barrels.
And your palate's just like burnt.
So we know exactly what we have at that time. And so what we'll do is we'll keep those bottles for the span of like 3 to 6 months of whatever gets us to basically as we start running out of stock. And so we'll go through, and I'll go through my shelf of bottles that have, now there's basically it's painter's tape on it with barrel numbers on it. And we'll go through and we'll say like, okay, we'll do this. This will be episode 23 or 24 or whatever it is. And we'll taste through it, and we'll start finding and pulling out those notes. Now in this one, there's always an opportunity that things could change slightly as well, right? I mean, when we pick a barrel, it could be 3 or 4 months until it's actually released, exactly what happened with episode 24. So we picked it at 14 years. We waited a little bit, and it ended up being 15 years old. So this one actually has a lot more oak influence than I actually remember, which I actually tend to enjoy, which I tend to enjoy. So if I was actually to pull the barrel sample out of the basement and compare it to this one, it might be just slightly different. But I definitely enjoy a little bit more oak in this one, along with the Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah. And I remember and I'm tasting it now, and I'm sure you can just, listen to this, Blake, and taste the same thing. Is that it just reminded me, as a kid, you finish your cereal and you like, I don't know. I was one of those kids that always like loved drinking the cereal milk afterwards, but it's got like that, that milky, creamy, like chocolatey kind of little bit bitter in there, when you drink your cereal milk. So that's kind of, and a lot of the show notes that I come up with, I try to think of like what I had as a child, or what have, I've just had recently or something. Like we'll talk about 25 here in a second, but anywho.
Yeah. And that's where I always kind of go on notes is, if people say, well, I don't get that at all. I'm like, well, I'm describing what it is in my head. So then 6 months from now, if I go and read my notes, that those flavors pop up to me. So I guarantee you right now, I could give you a description of that you could slap on any bourbon in the world, and you'd probably try and say, oh yeah, that's right. Say, it starts with rich oak, vanilla, caramel flavors,
right?
Backed up by sultry spice and black pepper, and it
you go around the flavor wheel
with long. It's like, what does that tell me about the bourbon at the end of the day? And I'm guilty of it too, but what does that tell me? And so I kind of like how you find that little bit of that specific note, or that unique note that just kind of lingers for you, and that's what you hit on. So and for me, that's much easier to remember a whiskey by if you kind of hit on those things. So on to the episode 025.
Before we do that, I also kind of want to mention, since this is 15 years old. I mean, there's not a whole lot of 15-year age-dated whiskey on the market. And just to be, again, transparent with everybody, even our supply of 15-year age dated stuff is, I think we're down to like 2 or 3 barrels left. Like that's it. So we're running like super, super low, even on what's going to be available and even available on the market. So if something that you're looking for an age statement with a high age, like we're even, to be honest with you, like we're coming down to the end of what's available for us. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're thinking about shopping.
And this is probably a question I should have asked earlier, but what does the broker, the sourcing market look like for older barrels? I know a lot of stuff's going to 3-4 year old MGP. How has that changed just since y'all have been in the game for the last 2.5 years?
Yeah. So you got
go Ryan.
You got a couple new players.
I saw Ryan start to twitch a little bit whenever I asked that question.
Yeah, it's like we talked about earlier. There's basically 3 major suppliers in the bulk market, but anything over 9 years is, well, hell, even over 6 years is pretty slim pickings now, and it's just the price keeps going up, and they keep getting listened because they didn't make, you got to let them age that long. And so, but there is some new players coming on board, but it's just young and a lot of it's not ready. So you're kind of in this, it's just like with all other whiskey right now in bourbon, you're just waiting for it all to age. You're in that waiting period to get to that magical, like 7 to 12 range. We're just not there yet with a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so it makes it challenging, like, at first we didn't have to forecast because we're just buying 1-2 barrels here at a time. But now, like, we're trying to, kind of predict like the next year or 2 years, and we're buying new make and all this stuff. And it's like, you understand the pain that these distilleries go through. You're like, we can't even forecast like 24 barrels, and they're trying to forecast, thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
It's an interesting side of it, and it just like makes you appreciate like companies like what Barrel Bourbon's done, and how they just like basically, got a ton of stock and inventory from all over and made some fantastic products. But yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
And that's really a good segue into going into episode 25, because it's refreshing to know that we're able to partner with distilleries that have, bang up products at 4 and 5 years old, that we don't have to wait for that 7 to 8 year, money mark on some things that, Blake, as well as we do, that we've tasted a lot of craft whiskey, even at 4 years old. And you're like, you've got a long way to go.
And hell, even
may not get better. Yeah.
But hell, even like MGP, 4 to 6 year olds, like I can't tell how many times we tried it and just turned it down because it's not, it's fine. But if we want to stay with what we're about and what we represent,
with a single barrel,
we just can't put it out there. It's just not up to our standards.
Yeah. And that's what I think is really the hard part, and what y'all have done a great job of is, the ages and everything. And I feel like you've mixed in some great ones as well at a younger age, but still throwing in that 15 year age stated is, who else on the market has that? Maybe you could say that Diageo with the Orphan Barrel Project was close, but other than that, there's not a lot that you can find at 15-year age, especially for that price. So kudos on that. So, and just to move into episode 025 now, to bring it back with, a craft distillery that it's 5 years old. It's from Finger Lakes. It's one of my favorites, and they always pop up if people ask, hey, what craft distiller should I try? Finger Lakes is always up there. One, because they have some stuff with some age on it, and they're just doing a bunch of really different stuff. I still think the rye whiskey that you did, I believe, what was it? 18 was the rye?
Yeah, episode 18.
Still one of my favorite whiskeys I've drank, and not just like.
Same here.
Not just like in the craft sphere realm. It just was incredible. So
I didn't really have anything to do with it, but it's one of my proudest accomplishments.
I will say the only thing that we did, I remember this vividly because, we talked to, Brian over at Finger Lakes, and, we got some samples shipped to us, and Ryan and I were in the basement, and, we loved the weeded bourbon, which ended up being episode 10. And they also sent us some rye samples, and we're like, yeah, you know what? Like, let's just pack the skid up. We'll buy an extra barrel. We'll age it a little bit longer, because at that point it was only 3 years old, and it still wasn't ready. It still wasn't ready even at that point. And I believe
we saw the potential in it. We were like, it's got something unique about it that we liked.
Yeah, and I remember we went back down to Memphis to our broker, and we've got our Pursuit Nook, if you will. Like, people have like racks and like towers of barrels. Like, we've got a Nook with like 8 or 10 barrels, and we popped open we popped open that barrel, and it was like just at 4 years old, and we're like, holy smokes! Like, something happened in here that I don't know if it was, just taking the trip from New York to Memphis, or sitting a year in Memphis, or whatever it is.
In my bourbon, or
all the jazz music around it. Just,
I mean, it's something. It was something. I mean, there was just something magical that happened in that barrel, and it turned out insane. And I know people are talking on the chat about episode 18, and thankfully, I think I've got like 3 bottles left or something like that. I mean, it's still it's an amazing rye, and I'd put it out there again with some of the best stuff that's ever been out there.
Yeah.
And
Brian from Finger Lakes, Brian McKenzie, if y'all haven't encountered him, he's just a great guy, extremely, just humble about what they do. And it'd always be like, well, I may have something you'd like. And then he brings out these barrels, and it's like, well, this is a 7-year-old bourbon that it's weeded. It's 107 proof. It was a 36-month air dried stave. And I'm like, what is this again? And he's like, well, we've got 12 of them. So if you want to try them, you can. And I'm like, Brian, this stuff is incredible. Like, it's which, I feel like they're really starting to catch on. Their bottled and bond project went really well. And so it's exciting to see that. But
yeah.
So let's talk about episode 25. And so I will read the show notes just because, I think it's funny now. So y'all are going to have to help me with the word, but it says pull out your Monillo to put froth up this spicy Mexican hot chocolate from Finger Lakes Distilling. Am I pronouncing that right? What is a
You got to Google it, Ryan.
Monillo?
This was Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan fought on this hill.
The one I've actually I'm stumped on. So okay, traditional hot chocolate.
I had to Google it myself, but the same exact thing.
Monillo whisk. Okay, so it's something for making traditional Mexican hot chocolate, but
so
that was Ryan. He's like, no, I saw Rachel Ray do this, and now we got to.
This isn't the first time that he did this. I remember he did Corcus Alba for episode 2, and I was like, what the hell, Corcus Alba? It's I
thought it'd just be cool. Like, you don't understand it, and maybe you would look it up. I don't know. It'd give you something to do while you drink, or I don't know.
Makes people Google, because guys are sitting around. They're like, oh, well, I don't know what that is, so let's.
Yeah, but so episode 25 actually came from. So we loved Mackenzie's weeded bourbon, and episode 10 was wildly popular, sold out, everything. So we went back to them. We're like, we got to get more weeded bourbon. They're like, sorry, can't sell it to you. But we got these something close. It's a spelted bourbon. So same thing. I was like, what the hell spelt? So I get on Google, and it's a type of wheat. So it's pretty similar to their weeded bourbon mash bill. And so they had sent us some samples. And the first 4 we got were actually like, it's okay, but it's just not really there. And then he sent us some more, and we found 2 or 3 that were like, holy cow, it's got like rich dark chocolate, for this youth, for how young it is. And then the reason I got this show notes, I think I just went to Key West or something, and I had a Mexican hot chocolate, and they, did the whole thing, like, and that's, I just couldn't get out of my head because it was like, real chocolatey, but like with a little pepper spice on it at the end, like not like a black pepper, but more like a, like a habanero or like a sweet, spicy pepper. And so I just couldn't get out of my head, and I was like, Kenny, we gotta throw in this Manila thing, and that's where it came about. So
is that the proper pronunciation then?
Hell, I don't know. I'm from Bardstown. We don't can't even speak English.
Yeah, I was like, I don't rely on Ryan for a lot of the correct pronunciations, but Molinillo, one or the other. Somebody will probably correct us in the chat. That's how it always ends up going, because we probably butchered somebody's ancestry.
So, sorry, I put the wrong comment. Joshua Harper said, "Is it weeded?" No, it is. It's what is it? 80%.
So it's
corn,
spelt, which is
spelt.
Yeah, which is a variety of a wheat.
So which we had another. It's 59% corn, 28% spelt, and 13% malted wheat. Is this recipe?
We had another barrel that we did private for OJ Lima, and he had spelt in there, and it was fantastic. But it's kind of one of those grains I feel like people already have like well, what is spelt? It's like when Jim Beam did the Trickatail or whatever that was, and I'm like, I don't want that in my bourbon.
Yeah, or like Amaranth or something. You're like, what gimmick is this?
Amaranth. It's like, all right, I'll pay $800. Okay, it's great. It's no, and I mean, I think that's a great thing in how you're kind of releasing them and say, hey, here's one craft distillery, here's one from a major Tennessee bourbon, here's age, here's something that's a little bit younger that we really enjoyed. So it's exciting. So, we're coming up, we're 54 minutes. So let's talk about kind of what's next, what people should be expecting, how they can, if you're probably watching this, you probably know that you can find these on Sealbox, but they do go to the Patreon members first. And a lot of times that's very important, especially when they sell out in like 10 minutes. So yeah,
or
kind of
3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes, maybe even less. What should people be expecting, looking for, and some of the exciting barrels you have up and coming?
Ron, you want me to take this?
Yeah. You're the inventory man. I
guess I have a lot of inventory. So I guess one of the big highlights that we're going to have next month is going to be our first release of 2 barrels we have from Woodinville. So Woodinville has just made waves in the past 6 months. And we had an opportunity to partner with them, fly out to Seattle and purchase 2 barrels and actually ship those barrels back. And now we're going to be bottling the first one next month. So look forward to that. It was just a fantastic day of going out there, talking to Brent, their master distiller, spending the day, and just kind of really just drinking it all in of what they were doing and everything like that. I mean, it's one of the small success stories that you see in craft distilling that are just completely blowing up. And it's because of their whiskey, and they're doing a fantastic job of it. So we're happy to be partnering with them. So you can expect a release actually next month from that. And then Ryan has also been very, very hard at work. I'll kind of give a little bit of a teaser of what we're doing. So as everybody kind of knows, that everything that we've been doing in Pursuit series have been single barrel selections. And everything that we do with these single barrels is a joyful pain in the ass because of what we have to do for labels, for selecting. Anybody that doesn't know, when we do these label runs, there are 250 of these that have to get printed out every single time. There are 108 bottles in this barrel, or 108 bottles in this barrel. So that means we threw away a ton of labels that we'll just never be able to use, right? So a lot of just wasted expense that goes into.
I just hand them out in like Walmart parking lot on windshield.
Stick them on windshields, yeah.
Sitting on Bardstown, yeah.
And so our broker has been urging us for a while to sit there and say, you all should really do a small batch product. And so we have been working diligently, and Ryan has been putting in countless hours and doing tons of taste testing. So hats off to him and everything that he's been doing. So
Way to put it all on me. No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean, it's
so if it sucks, yeah, thanks a lot, Ryan.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, thankfully, I've been the first one to taste it, and then I'll be able to tell him like, no, this is crap. But he does a fantastic job, and you know, I tried doing it myself. We looked at what's available to us, what's available on the open market, and what we are able to blend and actually make a product out of. And it's going to be a combination of a few different places. However, none of it will be the distillery from Tennessee that we have been using. And so it's going to have some good characteristics. It's going to be a mix of rye and wheated bourbons. So it's going to have spicy yet fruity characteristics on the finish. A little bit of depth from oak because I request a little bit of oak in there.
Yep,
so there's gonna be a
sweet oak.
Yeah. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of good things to come with that. Look forward to something like that hitting around Q4 is what we're aiming for in regards of coming out with a new product. I can't specify the name or what it's been called yet because we haven't gone through the trademarking process. However, Ryan, like I said, has been diligent, has been coming up with some really killer blends and is kind of boiled it down. And I know, Blake, you were on a text message thread as well as a lot of the guys on the roundtable. We're starting to now send out some samples to get everybody's real thoughts on it to see what this will look like. And yes, as Jay Roberts said, lots of marzipan coming out of it.
Yes. Yeah. So I think we're down to like the two final ratios that we think are winners, and Blake, you can tell us if they're not, and we can start all over.
I haven't tested them yet, so I will let you know once they arrive.
Yes, but yeah, so we finally, he had been asking us to do small batch, but like the products that been on the market they just didn't cut the mustard for us to work with. And so we finally have found some, great partners and some great products that we can blend and give us some really unique flavor profiles. And I've been kind of just homeschooling myself on blending. I have been reaching out to, I'm good friends with Drew Colesveen. He's been helping me with blending and the whole process of it. And so I've just been really trying to, get something that's really enjoyable and different than what's out on the market in that price range. And so hopefully that's a success. And if, you can let us know, or if not, but hopefully we're on to something. I think it's something I'm really excited about because single barrels, they've, not to say that they're easy, but they're easy kind of, you just, especially when you have the opportunity we have, you got 60 plus barrels. It's easy to go pick 2 or 3 winners out of those. And just through all this, I've just grown a greater understanding and appreciation of blending, especially blending at the size that we are. Subtle differences, even 5 milliliters and 100 milliliter can like throw the profile way off. And so it's just been kind of tinkering and messing with it. So I'm like really excited about it. And I hope that people enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
And then we've also been kind of laying down new make with some folks with Finger Lakes and then another unnamed source that we may anyways, but so that's the future. We're trying to
you skirted that one pretty well.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had your tap dancing shoes on.
Very smooth. I mean, I didn't even get the hardball questions out, and Ryan's already just out over here dancing.
So we're trying to secure our future because like we talked about, when you're on the open market, you're literally at the mercy of the market. So we're trying to buy what we can. We haven't really taken any distributions out of this business. We're putting everything back into whiskey and just really trying to lay down the future of having some fantastic products to work with, whether that's single barrels or blending, moving forward.
Yeah, and I'll drop 2 more little tidbits too. I know there's a lot of people in the Patreon community that already know this. We're very transparent about what's going on over there. So if you ever want to know more about what's happening with Pursuit Series, go join Bourbon Pursuit on Patreon. Just a small little plug for it. But we've also got some 4-year rye that's coming from another unnamed distillery that has got these like tropical fruit notes that we have never had before in a rye. So super excited to be able to release those probably in the next 2 to 3 months is what you're going to see there. So after the Woodinville, the one after that will be one of those ryes. So super, super excited to be able to do that. And then one thing that we're actually kind of disappointed about, but it's just the nature of what you have to do in this game, is that you will see a packaging change come in the future. So the Parker's Heritage-esque look will be phasing out over time. We've still got around like 3,000 or 4,000 bottles of it still in inventory, but the person who is making this glass and this mold is no longer doing it. And I've even gone to the extent of telling this company in France that I would buy their mold from them. Yet they didn't budge.
Still did not care.
Did not care. They're like, I say la vie. Is that French? I have no idea. So they basically said,
life is life, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
That was actually on Jeopardy tonight.
No, was it? See, I'm glad you watched Jeopardy.
Before the nap.
Au revoir. Au
Yeah.
revoir. Maybe that's what it is. I never took French, took Spanish. And so
you should know what a Manila is. And
you would think so.
I'm not tracking you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So you'll see a slight product change and packaging, not product change. Sorry, slight packaging change that'll come later on. But again, it'll be quite a while until you'll see Pursuit series change. When we talked a little bit earlier, like I said, I'm dropping all kinds of nuggets here, but when we talked a little bit earlier about the blend will be the first product that actually has the new packaging and some of the design with it as well.
Getting all kinds of spoiler alerts tonight. I like it. That's exciting. So, all right, guys. Well, once again, thanks for coming on here. It's been fun. It's been fun to kind of go through this whole bourbon thing. I think I text you guys and more than I probably should at times, because it's like, you guys have partners in this. I've always been solo, and it's like, am I crazy with this? Let me bounce this idea off of Ryan and Kenny. So, but no, it's really exciting just to see the Pursuit series take off, the podcast take off. So, really looking forward to the next few years of barrels and all that kind of stuff. So I'll give you a last chance, tell everybody where they can find you. Let's plug Patreon. Let's talk about the Pursuit series, find it on Sealbox and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So if you ever want to keep up with Pursuit series, go to pursuitspirits.com. That's where we have a record of every single barrel that's ever been.
I feel like I need to interrupt for just a second. So don't go to pursuitseries.com, because that's actually a romance novel. And that guy actually emailed me. I wish I could find that email, and was like, why are all these people asking me for your bourbon? I'm like, dude, I have no clue what you're talking about. So don't go to,
I should reach out to him and see if he want to sell a domain now. Something
it's
like
like
that.
a Fabio looking guy, riding on a horse. It kind of looks like Ryan with long hair. I'm not sure if there's some secondary venture going on, but
it was made 10 years ago.
Yeah. All right. Had to throw that one out there.
I love it. But yeah, so pursuitspirits.com, as well as all the socials at Pursuit Spirits, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is where you can kind of keep some updates on there. But again, Pursuit Spirits is where we have all of the episodes we've ever released, as well as all the information, as much as we can disclose, is all on there. If you also just want to know really everything that is built off of Pursuit Spirits wouldn't happen without Bourbon Pursuit, the podcast. So make sure you subscribe to that wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. It's not even iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Google Podcasts, YouTube, a few different places. And as Blake had kind of mentioned, all of our releases are always given first access priority to our Patreon community. So once again, shout out to everybody that does support us inside of Patreon. That's what keeps the show going, keeps the podcast going, which in turn actually ends up flowing into the whiskey as well. So cheers to everybody for your continued support and patronage through there.
Yeah, I'll second that. We're nothing without our audience and our Patreon supporters. I mean, they're what keep us going. Like I love just popping in on Discord or doing anything, just seeing what's going on. And it's like, I love those guys. So, and love you, Blake. I mean, thanks for everything you've done with us. I mean, you know, we there's no way we could make this successful without you and Sealbox. So we're super appreciative, and, you know, I love hanging out with you, but love doing business with you too. And it's just been a win-win all around for everyone. So really appreciate the opportunity you've given us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks guys for joining me. And I'm excited about diving into these bottles over the weekend. So I can't wait to do that. So once again, and yeah, everyone, thanks for watching tonight. Been a great turnout. Always fun to see people in the comments. So if you have anything else, you know, definitely put in the comments. We'll jump in there and answer any questions you may have. But thanks again. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Cheers.